Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to the all-new radio and television business report InFOCUS video podcast. My name is Adam R. Jacobson. I'm the editor-in-chief at the Radio and Television Business Report, broadcast media's balanced voice for business, regulatory, and financial news every business day. And you can find us online at rbr.com. The InFOCUS video podcast is presented by .fm, streaming social podcast or broadcast. Get a .fm domain name by heading over to get.fm today. And if you'd like to be a sponsor on this all-new podcast, well, feel free to email me at adam@rbr.com. I'll personally connect you with our relationship building specialist here at Streamline Publishing. And our guest today, well, that's Branden, Frantz. He joins us from Cincinnati, where he serves as president and general manager of WLWT Channel 5, a Hearst television station. He's one of our top local TV leaders and ranked number 2 in 2024. Well, where's he going to rank in 2025? That's totally up to you. Our nomination window will open at the end of August, and we're pleased to speak with him now about WLWT, a station that is in a highly competitive environment, and what it's like to run a broadcast TV station in Southern Ohio and Northern Kentucky today, how WLWT has made itself an essential community asset in a time when media trust is shaky is also something we're going to be talking about. So welcome to the podcast, Branden.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here, and kudos to you for shining a really necessary and needed light on broadcast-related issues.
Well, I look forward to having this conversation from Mason to Fort Knox. You've certainly attracted a lot of viewers, and it, I'm sure, has not been easy. The flagship property of the EW Strips company in the market, and formidable foes from Gray Media and Sinclair across town. It's certainly a market where one has many choices when it comes to local news. And for many, the NBC affiliate, which is WLWT, has remained a go-to choice. While there's certainly been a smaller audience to local news at 6 a.m. and 11 p.m. Than there was perhaps a decade ago, we did look at the ratings, and we saw that WLWT has at least seen the smallest loss of viewership. So that's a positive at a time where, we know that there's a lot of change when it comes to how people are viewing, when people are viewing news. How is your station remaining competitive while seeking to grow its audience at a time when doing so might seem so daunting to some?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And there's absolutely no doubt that Cincinnati has an incredibly competitive broadcast ecosystem. And as you just noted, with some great ownership groups, all of whom do a very good job. I mean, I've had the benefit and the privilege to work in this market and an adjacent market for a number of years. And it has been really interesting to watch the evolution of viewership in this region specifically, and profoundly proud of our teams and our efforts and the results that we've been able to put forth. But to answer your question as to our competitive position and that go-to choice, I think I first have to acknowledge that because we are in a scorekeeping world, we haven't had that position where we have been the go-to station, similar to other markets where you see these 20, 30, 40-year legacy television stations, and they've been that dominant performer for many years. This is a team that, quite frankly, has had to earn it. And as you can imagine, throughout this process, which is years and years in the making, there are a lot of moving parts. Mm-hmm. And it's never just one thing that you can put your finger, but it all begins with our people. And admittedly, in this process and this overall discussion on the topic, I clearly have a bias, but I always do effort to evaluate situations as objectively as possible. I think that I have no doubt, based on as objective as a observation and analysis I can make, that this team, both behind and in front of the camera, are absolutely the reason that we are winning today and are growing our audience and our audience shares. I mean, Cincinnati is a very traditional market in terms of the generational viewers that it produces. And what happens with that is when you have these generational viewers, they develop these loyal viewing patterns. So it's more harder than maybe a transient market where you have these people coming in every quarter, every year that you have the opportunity to cultivate that viewership. So, from a broad perspective, our first job is to provide the loyalists that are on our television station today what they want and what they need. Then we need to really work hard to, grow those audiences who are maybe loyal to another brand, or convince those that have a propensity to sample to flip and try us out. And when they do sample, we need to make sure we put our best foot forward, and we need to make sure that they keep coming back. Because what we also recognize is that audiences today have so many more choices for their valuable time. So when we get that chance to grab them and make sure that we encourage them and influence them to come back, we've got to do it the right way. So it's incredibly important that we lean into the urgency by which news happens, not only in Cincinnati, but quite frankly, in our region. I think our team overall, when I look at it top to bottom from our news operation, I think we play really, really big. And we certainly effort to make the right investments, not only in human capital, but also our content, special programming, technology resources that really drive impact. And when we tie this all together, we have to do it consistently, because what we've learned through our success is with consistency, we build trust. And ultimately, the trust is going to build loyal audiences across all of our brands. And then finally, I think the last thing that I would just point out that's really helped us out in the things that we're doing that I believe are making a difference is we're so incredibly fortunate to have
launching the next big podcast, building a vibrant social community, or broadcasting your brand to the world.
Hold on a minute.
We're get to them in commercials in.
We'll get to them in a minute.
You can charge them twice.
I'm so sorry about that.
Hey.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt you on that.
No. I grew up in the sales space, so I appreciate a good commercial.
We'll get back to our sponsor in a minute, but I didn't want to interrupt you. Please continue that.
No. I was just going to final that thought up with just really recognizing the fact that we have such a solid parent company in Hearst who leads our commitment to quality journalism and then reinforces it with their commitment through the investment and the innovation and ultimately support. So I think those are the key differentiators for us, just from a broad top line perspective.
Well, digital gateways to WLWT's local news coverage sound like a natural way to grow the total audience. And I'm wondering, how are those efforts moving forward? And has this helped in attracting younger viewers who marketers crave? Because we hear so much about local TV skewing older. Is that a challenge, however, to get those dollars against SEO and SEM and performance marketing initiatives, and of course those big tech platforms, among those owned by Meta and Alphabet?
Yeah, I don't think today is quite frankly a whole lot different. I mean, when you think about viewing and television viewing specifically, historically, younger audiences, and let's maybe kind of narrow that to under 25 years old, under 28 years old, they've traditionally not had a voracious appetite for news consumption. When I was coming out of college, I wasn't worried about getting home to watch the 6 o'clock news every day. But when I needed that content, I certainly knew where to go, and I would maybe sample throughout the 3 or the 4 options that I had. But I believe that broadcast or content producing broadcasters today actually have a better opportunity than even when I got into this business, which was in the late 90s. We've got an opportunity to connect and engage our brands with these younger viewers in a much different manner. And you mentioned just a few with Meta, Alphabet, but you take that to X or TikTok or other options. These are people that are engaging on those platforms, and we're present there. I mean, quite frankly, most recently we have a product, our Hearst Very Local streaming service, that we do host live news. We host weather for first run in original programming. So while we're not specifically targeting this quote unquote younger audience, we are engaging with them every single day because that's where they are today. I think the goal is, when you think about long term, is how do we keep them engaged with our digital brands and then convert them to a linear audience. And then when you go the other way, vice versa, maybe with someone like me who is a big time consumer, or my wife, or family that's a big time consumer on the linear platforms, how do we then reconnect on the digital platform, serving them there and opening another door that our brands can connect with our very, very important local audiences. So I think when you step back and you look at this holistically, it's only logical to connect the dots that if we can serve great content on all platforms, that we really have the opportunity today, and maybe even a better opportunity, to connect our audiences and all demographics, specifically to your question, the younger demographics, more than we ever had. So that's really, really exciting. The last piece of that's interesting to me is, you think about we're in a little bit of the Wild West in some capacity. I mean, we've got these murky social media algorithms. We've got influencers out there. We've got AI that's a part of our conversations. There's deep fakes. And I think that we are uniquely positioned as a credible source of information that's delivered by a broadcaster who's been around for 77 years, delivering curated, brand safe content in an environment that people trust. The challenge is really just keeping up with that ever evolving landscape and the most effective ways to continue to connect with these audiences.
Branden, when we wrote about you in our fall 2024 magazine, we noted that you were appearing on camera in editorials. So that's something that's less common today than in years past. And I'm wondering, does this continue, and has that brought challenges, in particular in a world where news bias is a hot topic, and at least on a national level?
Yeah. So you are correct. I began doing the editorials in, I think it was late 2020, mid 2020. Since that point, I have taken a step back on doing these on a weekly basis. And in fact, this year, I have not produced one to date. I do, however, expect that this is going to resurface in fourth quarter, and we're going to employ a little bit different tempo than what I originally bit off when I did this for a number of years, which was consistently once a week was the minimum that we needed to do. And we didn't end these, and the editorial board didn't end these due to any challenges with news bias or concerns. But quite frankly, it was just a personnel issue, and it was an unchanged a factor in our editorial board. And I had an individual at the time that was really one of my most trusted go-to resources that understood the goals and focused us in the right direction. He prepared and helped and supported in a balanced, fair, objective manner, and we were always coming up with really contextually relevant topics. So that is going to move forward, like I said, in the back half of this year. Mm-hmm. But when you think about the editorial process in general, I mean, I work for Hearst, as you know, and for over 135 years. Our parent company has offered editorial opinion in newspapers and magazines, and to a lesser degree, the last few decades on television stations. So I've had a tremendous support channel and counsel in approaching this thoughtfully and in the spirit of how we really want to represent our brands. I've never really been concerned with being accused of having a bias with these, because I don't really look at the topics as entirely controversial or unimportant to most. I mean, we discuss the history and importance of Juneteenth and Memorial Day, and we advocate for safer communities or supporting local businesses or charities. I did one even back in 2022 or late 21 and early 22 on the Bengals march to the Super Bowl. So these kind of things and big community events are really what we focus on. But when we do hone in on a topic that might be touchy, As in the case, we did one in a couple years back, and it was right after Roe v. Wade. And I swore I was never going to do an editorial on abortion or gun laws or gun rights. And we found ourselves in that. And it was right after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. And then Ohio, as you know, affirmed abortion stance in the state. And we tackled that. But our position was to simply encourage both sides, whether you're happy with this or upset with this, that you need to participate more in the electoral process, register to vote, go out and cast your vote, because that's where the real change can occur, whether you're happy or whether you're upset with this. So we would get feedback every single editorial we did. And the good news is I get some that, got a little dicey. There's no question, but I have always engaged with every viewer that does take the time to look up my email, send me an email, make a call, and does so in a very respectful manner, whether it's to thank me for this and the team or to air a grievance. So it has been a very much more rewarding process than what I had originally expected.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break right now. We'll take a quick pause to hear a word from.
We're launching the next big podcast, building a vibrant social community, or broadcasting your brand to the world. .fm is your signal to stand out. Don't just streamline your success with .fm. Claim yours today at www.get.fm.
And we thank .fm for presenting this InFOCUS video podcast. Again, my name is Adam R. Jacobson. I'm the editor-in-chief here at the Radio and Television Business Report. And I have with us Branden Frantz from WLWT in Cincinnati. I wanted to ask about NBC affiliation, because it's certainly something that aids WLWT, especially with major events in the mix over the next year. But with high-profile affiliation drops in Miami and Atlanta in the news, and the FCC seeking answers from Comcast about its NBC and Telemundo affiliation deals, I'm wondering if you can give a sense of how important WLWT's tie is to NBC in an age where, well, a lot of people can go to Peacock or NBC.com, and, I don't know. I'm assuming NBC affiliation is pretty important for your station, because you're the first non-owned NBC station outside of New York to be an NBC affiliate. What does that mean for you going into the 2026 broadcast season?
Yeah, I do believe that we have a very healthy relationship with our network partner. I'd first attribute that to our executive team, beginning back when Jordan Wertlieb served in a leadership role on the affiliate relations board. Now our current president, Mike Hayes, and our executive vice president, Eric Meyerowitz. They do an amazing job working to build bridges with our network partner in these roles. And it really has solidified our partnership in a positive way. And that doesn't mean that there aren't things that we need to continue to work on. But I would actually put our position with the network, and I've been with NBC since I worked for Wesh in Orlando, and then been here since 2017. And I think it's in a good place right now. And we have a mutual respect and understanding. And I do believe, as it relates to Hearst and NBC specifically, there's a mutual understanding that we're better together. Not only from our news sharing collaboration and how we can support and be an extension for our network in this region, but really there's a routine and reciprocal respect for what each provides in building a stronger collective brand. You had mentioned that WLWT is the first station in Cincinnati, and we were the first NBC affiliate in the nation. We're actually the second affiliate to sign on in the state of Ohio by about a month and a half to WEWS in Cleveland. But as you noted, being the first NBC affiliate in the nation, this is actually a mark that we've held since virtually day one. So that's a pretty special relationship when you think about how long that's existed. And I certainly don't take that lightly either. And while you are correct about the Peacock and quite frankly others, YouTube TV or any number of streamers. People do have options. But one thing that I think almost gets lost in the shuffle of this that we as broadcasters have to do a little bit better job of. It's important to realize that when you go to Peacock, you're also going to find WLWT and our local programming there, just like you will YouTube TV. So I think those are things that are also important to recognize. And again, the relationship between the network and the station has been solidified in that manner where we have extended our partnership over to their very heavy streaming investment.
Before joining WLWT, you were across town at WXIX, which is today owned by Gray Media. And this puts your total time in Cincinnati at 17 years. Before that, you were just up the road in Dayton, Ohio. So Southern Ohio seems to be pretty special to you. There may be some tuning in who only know of Cincinnati from a sitcom featuring a little AM radio station and the call letters WKRP. What can you say about the region today in 2025 and what's really driving the community and your TV station?
Well, a lot of people know us for our Cincinnati style chili or maybe the Grater's ice cream, but there's no question that KRP
had to go to food. just no fried pickles or whatever the heck that stuff is. The pickle soup at Blind Bob's is quite a delicacy, I must say.
I'm gonna send you some. It'll be there overnight. But yeah, I mean, WKRP is certainly an icon in the television industry. I mean, one of the most popular shows. I mean, who can forget Lonnie Anderson, who recently passed away? But that was a show that put Cincinnati on the map in a lot of ways. And I'll give you a fun fact about WKRP is if you watch the intro of the show, and I think this was back in 77, 78, the skyline will look vastly different in the opening of the show itself. But there is a presented radio tower that was actually the television tower, which is the primary antenna and tower of WLWT. So every open, there was WLWT presented as a radio station. But
airing on a crosstown CBS station, I might say.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. But in terms of what drives our area, just like the station, I think it's the people, the diversity of this region, the passion for our community. When I moved to Orlando and worked for WESH for a number of years, I loved our time. My family loved our time in the Central Florida area. But what I didn't realize until I moved back is how uniquely different Cincinnati was. And there was a different feel, a different culture, a different, way that this city was stitched together. There's a big difference between Mason, Ohio, and Northern Kentucky, or quite frankly, the east side or the west side. So we have to really work hard to understand those differences in the content producing world and appeal to those individuals. The other piece of this, when you really think about it, is that if you were to draw a 90 to 100 mile radius from downtown Cincinnati, there's another 4 million households that are within that radius, whether it's Lexington, Louisville, Columbus, Ohio, or where I worked for a number of years in Dayton, Ohio, which is just up the road. So there's a lot of news that happens in these regions at any given point. And that does drive some of our decisions. I mean, we are a absolute hyper local television station, but we serve these communities when big newsmakers happen, whether it's the tornadoes that tragically ripped through London, Kentucky a few months ago, or a couple years back, the Eastern Kentucky floods. I mean, this is a station, when I talked about how we play big, we're going to have boots on the ground at that point when things occur, because what we've also learned and what we know is that the people in this city have connections to all of these areas because of the proximity. And I think that's one of the unique differentiators of Southern Ohio in a different way. But in terms of Cincinnati, we've had festivals like Get a Festival. I mean, we have the second largest Oktoberfest in the nation, only second to the original in Munich. We have a biannual Blink event, which is the largest light and art festival in the world. And of course, the coolest name in marathon, the Flying Pig Marathon, which has been broadcast exclusively and streamed for free on WLWT for over 20 years. So, there's a lot of really fun, engaging things with the city that keeps our team busy. There's from the entertainment and the arts to the food, but there's a major little project called the Brent Spence Bridge project that's on the horizon, and this is clearly affecting a regional, a local, and a national impact, and that's going to get started later this year and is expected to go into about 2032, and as one of the most important bridges in the nation, that I believe the estimate's a little over $2 billion a day of goods will cross that bridge. That is something that we're going to be squarely focused on as this continues to be developed. But overall, I think we're clearly proud of our mom and pops, but we're also home to really big, important corporate partners in this region with Kroger, Western and Southern, General Electric, Procter and Gamble, and one of the largest employers with Children's Hospital. So we're not really sure what tomorrow brings in terms of the news cycle, but I do know that I confidently can say that this team's going to answer the call in the same consistent market leading manner that viewers expect, and quite frankly, they deserve.
Speaking of teams, before we wrap up the podcast, I want to bring Ellie De La Cruz and Joe Burrow into this conversation, because it seems that there's some seeds of hopefulness among local sports fans that might go beyond the Bearcats or the Buckeyes. What is the fervor for local sports right now on the pro side, and what does that mean for the whole region and for your station in particular? Because when a sports team does really well, that energizes a community, and I would think your station as well.
Yeah, no question. I mean, first, you mentioned Ellie. I mean, the Reds are what I think a game and a half back right now. It is a team that could absolutely get into the playoffs and has the ability and propensity to create some exciting fun when you watch those games, and who knows where it leads them. This is a baseball city first. I mean, football drives the way in a lot of respects, but Cincinnati is baseball number one and football number two. Joe Burrow is clearly an electric player. He has energized the base of the city in a big way. And in turn, we've been able to take advantage of that in a lot of ways. In 2022, the Super Bowl was on WLWT. We had a really exciting time with that, sending a number of teams out to LA, and we almost got there. We have the Super Bowl next year alongside the Olympics. So I'm crossing my fingers that we're able to have a back-to-back repeat. But the electric around the Bengals and the Bengals specifically, because we carry games on NBC. In fact, we have the ESPN Monday Night Football game on the 18th. So we'll produce a lot of, a handful of hour and a half of shoulder programming in advance. We'll obviously have the post game. So it gives us, the excitement and the connectivity with the team at a time that the team is really trending. And after that first preseason game and Joe Burrow coming out 9 out of 10 and 123 yards passing, we're hearing he could play up to 2 quarters on this preseason, which is completely unheard of in the realm of preseason sports. So I think that should drive ratings and our success next Monday.
As a suffering, lifelong Miami Dolphins fan, I am envious of what you have coming ahead. Listen, we're out of time. So I want to thank you, Branden, for being the guest on this InFOCUS video podcast. It really was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. It's been fun.
All right. And with that, we want to thank you for watching this all new radio and television business report InFOCUS video podcast. It was sponsored by .fm, streaming social podcast or broadcast get at .fm, domain name by heading over to get.fm today. The InFOCUS video podcast is copyright 2025 Streamline Publishing and is produced and distributed on the StreamYard platform. From Boca Raton, Florida, I'm Adam R. Jacobson. Have a great day.